colleagues, the library team, and our partners from other institutions and in the industries. Thank you for being with us today. I'm going to go straight to the point. Here, today I'm going to be talking about the value that we can extract from big data. What I will try not to do is go into the deeper end of the technical aspect. You know, what had happened over the last year is, the last few years, we're talking a lot about big data. We talk about big data in all spheres of our lives. In academics, in business, and different areas of the sectors, such as the healthcare, transport. But there are different things people associate to big data. And those are some of the things that I want to explore this morning. And I want to try and see whether I'll be able to provoke some discussion without going into the technical aspects. These are just a few things that they outline as part of the conversation that I want to have this morning. You know, I'm not going to redefine two things. I'm not going to redefine big data here. Otherwise, I'll be going to the technical aspect. Also, I'm not going to redefine what value is, because the word value is subjective. It depends on the context. It depends on the perspective and what we associate to value. Whichever way you look at value, it has to be relevant to who is looking at it, the lens through which you look at it. And in most cases, it has to be it has to be relevant from operational perspective, from strategic perspective. Also, to the environment where we look at value, and is he able to help us make decisions and developing different kinds of solutions that help us with competitiveness, improve support and enable whatever decision we already have in place, efficiency and effectiveness. If we can have these or any of these, then we can actually talk about having value in whatever entity we are dealing with. But in this case, this morning, we'll be talking about big data. So I will look at the concept of big data without going into the technical aspect. The reason why I want to look at it this way is will take me to the next slide that I want to talk about, bring out some extracts between what big data is and what small data is. Right, so when we look at big data, it has characteristics. And those characteristics and volume, because the reason why I want to look at it this way is a whole lot of people think it's all about size. Big data is not just about size. Size is only one thing, that is the volume. And the volume, when it becomes unprecedented in the context that you are looking at it from, okay, and not in general. Unprecedented means that you are acquiring data. The volume is more than the normal size you will ordinarily have. Then we look at the velocity. The velocity is how does the data travel? If you look at healthcare, for example, if you look at transport, in the healthcare, you have a whole lot of diagnosis going on in the medical area, the different medical services that have to be offered, and you see that the speed, the time frame, they accumulate so much data every day. The same thing goes with transport. The same thing goes with security, safety and security, where at some point in Johannesburg, many years ago, they said one car is hijacked every 5 seconds of the day. And with that kind of activities, there are a whole lot of things that are associated with it, which includes the investigation, the motions, etc., the images that goes with it. We look at the veracity. If you're looking at data, you're looking at the veracity. How complex is it? Example is when you have to start looking at the motions and the videos. People who use things like CCTV, when you look at the image, that it's not as simple as one will think it is. And then we look at the veracity. That's the multiplicity of the different forms. The data come in different forms, and they come in different formats. That's what makes it very, very challenging to look at. Now, the last V, okay, I didn't say that. You know, when people look at big data, they look at the V's that goes with it, and these are the V's that I've just shown you. Say the data must be valuable. Every data is valuable. It depends on who is looking at it. And from what angle you are looking at it. Some people throw away and discard data, and other people will make use of it. Like what we've got in CPUT now, the angle where students have to upload their data. One of the things is some students have made use of those data and graduated, but somebody else can come and make use of that data, conduct research around it, publish from it. But that data has been discarded by the students. Say, I'm done with my studies, I've graduated, I'm gone. So the value that you associate to it, it comes from different angles. Now, you see, there are challenges with what I have just said when we start looking at big data. This is why you see that many organizations, especially in our country here, they still struggle with the word big data. In some area, as we speak, is a buzzword. They have not been able to make the best out of it. But across the sea, in North America, there are companies, that's their job to sell the data. So we're not there yet because we have some of the challenges that goes with it that we need to keep unpacking. And that challenge, what I call it quit. So we must get out of that quit. So number one for me is the quality. Now, when you look at big data because of the characteristics that it entails, that is the 5 V's that I just showed you. If you don't look at it properly, what it's going to give you incomplete, inaccurate, it can be inconsistent as well. So these are some of the challenges that big data is going to give to you to fiddle with, to try and pack it. Uniformity. If you move big data from one environment to the other environment, you're going to have challenges of uniformity. Why? Because it's diverse, because the formats are different, because you have to find a unique way or a generic way to validate it. That has always been a challenge for many organizations, including those of us in research and in education. And then you also look at the infrastructure. When many in research and in the industry, when we want to select the infrastructure that can enable and support big data, we always have challenges with it. And I will deal with some of the challenges that we always have with it. So we either select or acquire multiple infrastructure to do the same thing, or we select the wrong one that cannot handle it. And then what do? We blame the big data. Are we able to transfer big data and still make the best out of it? That's a challenging question for many environments to answer. Why? Because of the differences in it, one. And that differences is because we see them as differences. And why do we do that? Because we don't understand it. And why don't we understand it? Because we are not able to differentiate between small data and big data. So let's look at the concept of big data. Big data is not new, although we continue to have challenges with it. The concept of big data started over 34 years ago. But today we still have challenges with it. Today, many organizations dare not go into it. The fear of the consequences that may come out. What is new is the differentiation. We need to be able to differentiate between small and big data. That is new. And if you look, let's start with the knowledge economy. That is where we are in research and development. If you do a search, you hardly will can't find a research paper that focuses on the differentiation of small and big data, which, because we're in knowledge economy, which now have a problem for the industry themselves. Sometimes they rely on us to be able to do the research and give them some solution. That's one aspect, what is new. The other thing that is new is the method of gathering big data. A whole lot of us are stuck with the method in which we gather small data. We want to employ the same techniques and method in gathering big data. It doesn't work. There you will see those challenges that I mentioned, such as incomplete, inaccurate kind of data. Then the other thing that is new is the technique for extracting value from big data. There is analytics and there is analysis. Not the same thing. I'll quickly touch on that, but I just want to point it out that these are some of the things that are new when you talk about big data. Otherwise, big data there's nothing new about big data as of today. Right, let's look at the differentiation quickly. What meaning do you associate with a different concept, the two concepts. The meaning is very significant. The meaning drive, shape, where you categorize them and how you classify them, the different elements that are associated to the concept. So the distinction must be, therefore, the distinction must be understood. If we understand the distinction between the two concepts, it helps us to put them in perspective. It helps us to differentiate them in terms of the V's that I have mentioned earlier. Because you gather both small and big data. You do that, you apply both, you analyze both. But what is the difference? We begin to look at the nomenclature and the taxonomy. So you look at that classification of both small data and the big data. What are the elements that you can associate with them? And what are the attributes that defines the entities of a data? Only then you are able to differentiate the two. Some of the consequences when we are not able to do that. What will happen is we go and purchase the wrong tools, especially those of us in the industry. Those of us in academic, what happen is we select different techniques for the analysis of the data, for the interpretation of the data, because we don't understand the differences. We don't understand the elements. We don't understand the attributes that are associated to these different concepts of data. It becomes very prohibitive when that happens. When we get to some point from research perspective, again, what do? We blame the data. And some people, what they do is they go back to the field and collect more data because they're using the wrong tools. The analysis, whether in the industry or in the academic sector, the analysis become very complex. But what suffer it is we start manipulation. We start trying to fox the results if it's quantitative, and if it's qualitative, we start forcing the findings. So that's what happened at the analysis and interpretations. And sometimes the researcher will tell you, I've done the analysis, I can't find anything. Then you say, what lens are you wearing? Earlier I mentioned about analytics and analysis. The reason why I think this is very significant is many of us continue to either use the word loosely or we overplay them. But we need to know the difference when it comes to big data, because big data is a different kinds of animal that have come into our life in the last 30-something years. So let's look at analytics. You know, when we deal with analytics in the area of big data, what analytics focuses on is what happened. And we have different tools of doing that. And this is where the challenge comes in. Because we are dealing with what happened, we are describing what happened, we are prescribing what happened. Because it's very computational. That's why we are able to do that. So that is what analytics help us with. And what analysis will help us with, which is a little bit different, my view is that analytics is very specific. Go straight to the point. What happened to that data, with that data, for that data? Analysis is broader than that. It's more generic. It allows complementary use of different tools, different approaches and techniques. And a look at the human action in using big data. It does not stop in what happened. It moving into why things happen the way they do. And when you do that with big data, it becomes more comprehensive. Then you can achieve a lot more value than what just happened. Yes, you can accumulate values, you can extract value from what happened. You know, so if I go into, this is exactly what I was trying to explain. First and foremost, you have different tools, different techniques when it comes to analytics, even though they are very, very specific. You have the descriptive, and that is going to be describing exactly what happened. And so, which means that they look at the event, they look at the history behind it, of what happened. So, but if you go to diagnostic and you go to predictive, it can help you predict what the future is. Again, what is going to happen, but it's not telling you why and how. It goes straight to what is going to happen. That is the forecast. And the prescriptive as well. So you can use any of these in terms of interpreting your data. And you can bring that into the higher world, like I will put it, which is using the machine learning to get deeper into it. Because as we speak today, there's nothing you're going to be able to do with AI without big data. Look around. If you understand what big data is, it rely on, sorry, if you understand what big data is, you will realize that AI rely on it 100%. In terms of the images, the video, the voice, etc. And that is a constitute of big data. The analysis on its own is bringing different kinds of meaning. It's bringing different kinds of meaning. That's the subjectivism that it brings into it. Because take, for example, if we're going to bring a picture here, a video here, and I ask you to give me your view about it, you're going to have different meaning. You're going to look at it from different perspectives. And that is subjectivity. And that is what analytics is not going to do for you. It's very straightforward. So with this case, that's the first thing. The second thing is you want to apply your mind to say, why are things happening the way they do? Why is the robot moving in a particular way? Or why is the voice sounding in a particular way? And in one context and in another context, it's different. So you can do that with analysis. And this is where we now begin to look at the human aspect, which come from philosophy, psychology, to understand why things happen the way they do. And there are some theories that you can look at in doing so. One of them is activity theory. The strength of activity theory is to look at how you use tools, in this case, technology, to mediate between entities, between actors, which are living beings, and the interaction that happen there, which include why certain interaction happen in the way they do, whether it is based on the relationship. You can also look at actor network theory that bring a different dimension to how big data, you can extract value from big data. You look at the translation of it. Okay. One of the things or the strength or the mantra of actor network theory, it says follow the actors. And following the actors, like big data, people movement, people voices, the different actions, you are following it until you get to the point of saturation. It's like the police investigating an incident. They follow the traces, the track, and that is the actor. You're following the actor. Another good thing about that theory says that actor is not just a living being. It is human and not human, which is different from what activity theory refers to as actor. Activity theory says it's only a living being with conscience. Okay, so and this social technical theory will help you to begin to understand one fundamental thing, which is why do things happen the way they do? It may use looking at big data. You want to diffuse the data. You want to spread it across the different environment, the audience. It's very, very, very important that you cannot use the same formula in diffusing the whole of a particular technology. In some area, it will be welcome, received. In another area, it will not be. Why? Analytics will not show you that. Diffusion of innovation will help you to unpack that. I think this is the last theory that I want to talk about from social technical aspect. You know, structuration theory will make, this is purely from psychology. Structuration theory was developed by Anthony Giddens, who was one time political advisor to the British Prime Minister, Margaret Thatcher. Structuration theory look at the interplay between structure and agency. In structuration theory, structure is not the hierarchy in an organization that we normally see or look at. In structuration theory, it is rules and resource. And how now where they become important in big data is how those rules are formulated, how they are applied. Rules are formulated to produce resource, and resources are used to govern the rules. It now become the duality of structure. You can look at other theories that can help us in extracting data from, value from big data. And I just look at 3 areas where we normally consistently and increasingly talk about big data, the value of it, the usefulness of them. One of them is education. The other one is healthcare and safety and security. You can see those things are very, very important in our life. It's very difficult to find a household where their education is not being spoken about. And improve the content that we have when we talk about big data. Now, when we talk about AI, I just want to quickly touch on that. One of the systems that we're developing right now is to improve attendance in classroom. The moment you walk into that class, it take the identity of that student and merge it with the student number. Then it mark you present of the attendance. The same thing applies to the lecturer. Now, the system sends a signal to the HOD that the class is ongoing. And if the lecture has been moved from the way it's scheduled, it will also indicate that. So, and the system monitor the movement in class, the engagement of the lecturer and the students. Again, now you're talking about AI. Again, you're talking about the big data because it relies on the data. It relies on the human, the structure that you see there. It relies on what? The voices, the communication that happens. It relies on those to be able to put them together. And the other area that I quickly look at is where it's also, again, very, very important. Apart from, okay, now the first one is the heterogeneity of the data. One of the things we've struggled here, especially with private health facilities. If I'm coming from the Eastern Cape, I've seen a medical doctor. When I get to Western Cape, I want to see another medical doctor. But I can't remember the kind of medications that I was given. Especially some of the medications can be very complicated that we even struggle to pronounce them. Then we have issue. And this is where the heterogeneity of data come in. So if you are able to centralize it, it helps with the movement. It helps with the consideration of the data that happens there. It also helps us with, if you're looking at big data, it helps us with visualization of the diagnosis that happens within the hospitals and the clinics. When, like the example that I just gave you now, about the different facilities and the different activities that happen. If we have a system that relies on big data, where you can actually centralize, it helped facilitate decision making. And otherwise, when you look at some of the diagnoses that are done, they are often repeated and which have effect on the patient, their risk. So the third thing that I look at which is also very, very important in our life, is safety and security. With big data, you can have a unique identifier. It doesn't matter whether you look alike. It doesn't matter whether you have the same date of birth. A unique identifier is what the big data will help you with. you know, when some incident happened today, the first thing the police or the investigator wants to do is rush to the CCTV to look at it. And we've seen many cases like that. But still, the struggle with conclusion in that aspect, because there's no unique identifier. People look alike, people work in a similar way. And especially these days with AI, you can imitate other people's voices. But with unique identifier, it should be able to differentiate it, extract it, because the voice is linked to the person's date of birth, because the voice is linked to other parts of the human body. Right. Now, that said, when you look at, we able to break the values, the challenges and extract values from big data. When I have looked at many circumstances surrounding them, I could only come up with this. And what is this? The degree of knowledge, the levels of knowledge that we associate with the big data. When we are able to do that, we can understand it deeper and make use of it. You cannot really gain much value from big data if you don't understand the constituents, the things that make it happen, the things that make it look like what it is or what it's not. One of them is, do I know what I know about it? Those questions. Knowing what you know is a level of knowledge certainty about big data. If that happens, you are able to predict the future state of your big data. Where this becomes very important to us, researchers, maybe people in academics, have been able to engage at a very senior level with one of our 4 banks without mentioning names and other institutions. You see, some organizations, one, they don't know they have big data because they just think it's some tangible thing that they can look at. Those who have big data, they don't know how much big data they do have. Those who know, the third one, those who know how much big data they have, they don't know exactly what they want to do with it or what they can do with it. They extract so little from it and leave a bulk of the big data lying there, which can be used for a whole lot of things. Because knowing what you do know, knowing what you do not know is critical. I know about big data, but there are certain things that I don't know about it. This is because a whole lot of people are not able to differentiate the boundaries. They want to put everything in the same basket. And when that happens, that is what I spoke about earlier, transferability. You're not able to transfer it from one environment to another environment within an organization. The third one is, I do not know what I do know. A whole lot of people in our organizations, they will tell you that. I know it exists, but I do not know what I do know about it. It becomes very confusing. And the last one says, which is even a bigger problem. And this is what structuration referred to as practical unconsciousness. You are saying you don't know what you don't know about it. For you to have said that, it means that you actually know something about it. But we are not able to explore it beyond that because we don't know how to do that. I want to conclude with this. When you look at big data, the way it's come over the last 30 odd years, and many organizations still struggle with it. What Charles said is, it is not the strongest of the species that survives, not the most intelligent, yeah, but the one most responsive to change. Thank you very much.